The sun was setting, marking the end of an unforgettable era. All knew that, when dawn broke, this would be over. Until then, they would have to fight with sharpened swords and hardened hearts. Jeremy swallowed the dry lump in his throat. While he prayed to the Potato Lord for victory, he also prayed for his brother's safety. Though he knew it was impossible, he still wished for Isaiah's return. The only house close enough to the church for the residents to be able to hear what was about to happen was Dan's, and no one was there anymore. Jeremy and Garden were alone. It was the Potato Lord's command for it to be this way. Those who were chosen had been divided, and so they would be the ones to fight. It was not a responsibility that rested on anyone's shoulders but theirs. "They're coming," Garden noted, gazing out at the silhouettes on the red horizon. He and Jeremy stood and readied their bows, breathing deeply to steady their nerves. "Do you think they'll surrender?" Jeremy asked. "I doubt it." There was no turning back. He couldn't waver. Jeremy had made his decision, and he was sticking to it. "Then we'll have to kill them." Garden looked over and noticed just how unsteady Jeremy's hands were despite the firmness of his words. He had been willing to sacrifice his own life to save his brother when all of this began, and that probably hadn't changed even after all that had happened. Given the opportunity, he would probably do everything within his power to return things to the way they were. A black cloak suddenly whirled past the two and stood before them. The hood was pulled up so they couldn't see who it was, but they recognized his voice. "Your only command is to protect the church," said the Potato Lord. "You may do so however you see fit. Move on my signal." "Attack on my command," said the Carrot Goddess. "Charge!" The men all ran out to close the distance and began firing their arrows. None of them were familiar with war and were still unsure about getting too close. The Potato Lord and the Carrot Goddess, however, ran straight at each other with their swords held high, being hit by nearly all of the arrows. Their followers on both sides lowered their weapons for a moment to take in just how horribly reckless their gods were. The blades clashed with such force that the deities were thrown back. They skidded across the ground, taking several more arrows in their shoulders and backs. "I knew that you'd want to fight me face to face," the Potato Lord smirked. "You're so terribly predictable." "Shut up!" The Carrot Goddess leapt back onto the offensive, wildly slashing at her opponent. The Potato Lord dodged every swing, being able to pull the arrows from his flesh as he did. His wounds immediately healed, and he struck back, beating the goddess to the ground. "Our goddess sucks at fighting," Isaiah observed, quite surprised. "So she does." Dan drew his sword, and Isaiah followed his example. They both ran to the aid of their leader, but it was fruitless. With a wave of his cloak, the Potato Lord disappeared along with the Carrot Goddess. The Carrot Goddess found herself in a place she had been before. Endless darkness stretched out in every direction. They had returned to their own world. She managed to pick up her weapon and roll out of the way just as the Potato Lord moved to strike her. "You've caused my people a lot of grief," he said calmly. "They were doing well before you came and planted doubt." "And you should have eliminated that doubt," the Carrot Goddess chuckled wryly. "Instead, you underestimated me. I may not be a god, but neither are you. You can't be everywhere at once." The Potato Lord cocked his eyebrows curiously, but thought it best to keep his distance. "What could you do with Isaiah? You had warned them of what would happen if they disobeyed you, and you couldn't go back on your word." "It was you," the Potato Lord breathed. "All I had to do was give his foot a little nudge, and it was bye-bye potato." "Do you have any idea how much pain you caused him?" "Is it close to the pain your precious Jeremy felt?" The Potato Lord froze. "You were so busy with Isaiah that you hadn't seen who had stolen from Garden, so you didn't know what to do. When it looked like it might have been Isaiah, you shifted the blame to Dan, the only person it could have been, to protect Jeremy from any more torment." "You're sick," the Potato Lord spat. "You framed him, and then you had the gall to say that you would protect him? Those are good people." "But you aren't," the Carrot Goddess snapped furiously. "I'm sick of it. You're so self-righteous. Every day I was stuck with you in this place." "Then why did you follow me when I left?" "Because I wanted what you had. There was perfect silence for a moment. The Potato Lord held himself back to give the Carrot Goddess time to settle herself. I saw how much they loved you. They really did seem like good people. It didn't make sense. Why did they hate me? She fell to her knees and broke into tears, hiding her face in shame. What's so great about potatoes? Sister, the Potato Lord muttered quietly. The Carrot Goddess looked up through her tears at the dark magic radiating from his hands. We're going to stay here, where we belong. Months after it had all ended, the church was still falling to pieces, and no one had any intention of rebuilding it. Jeremy and Garden still went there, but they could tell that they no longer had anyone to whom they could pray. Their God was gone. No one on either side had died on the day of the war, but the injuries were great. Garden was still on crutches. When it was over, Isaiah and Dan had disappeared. This is depressing, Garden sighed. Let's go. Jeremy tossed a potato up and down in his hand. You're right, he agreed quietly. As they turned to leave, they noticed a cloaked derelict standing in the doorway. They recognized that cloak, but they recognized the voice like it were their own. If I were to say that I would spare your people if one of you chose to sacrifice yourself, would you still offer yourself?